While Maddie and Walker are off on their post-apocalyptic road trip, back at the ranch, things have quickly gone from bad to worse. Like, you know that little boy that's always bringing home strays? Well, think of Troy as that little boy, and the strays as a massive horde of undead. And it's going to be up to Nick and Jake to see if they can straighten him out. It's Fear the Walking Dead, Season 3, Episode 12, Brother's Keeper. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Fear the Walking Dead. So, as usual, lots of spoilers ahead. Now, the other day I was looking back at the Nielsen ratings for Fear's past seasons. And it has gone steadily from about 8 million viewers back in Season 1 to about 4.5 in Season 2 and averaging so far at about 2.5 for this season here. Kind of a steady decline. In fact, last week's episode only measured out about 1.9 million, just under 2 million viewers. So, unfortunately, the quality issues that sort of have plagued Fear that I have talked about is definitely having an effect on viewership. And I say that now because, unfortunately, what that means is they got to miss a very good episode, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this episode. I think they had some great visual storytelling. I thought that they made some interesting choices, and they approached things from kind of a fresh perspective, which is different from what we deal with the more seasoned veterans that we catch over Walking Dead. So let's start things off here with the opener, which I think was one of the best openers that I've seen on the show in quite some time. Just following Troy and seeing the effects of being out. Now Troy's a survivor. Troy has lived and grown up on the ranch and its surroundings, so he knows the area. This is not an unfamiliar task for him, so it seems natural that he would sort of drift into it. You know, when we see him, he's making his notes and he's journeying across the land. I loved him going back up to the outpost, which totally made sense that this would be a place that he would know, a place where he might be able to find food, that he might be able to find shelter, that is familiar to him, gets him out of the opening. So I loved that whole bit. And then when it leads to that moment where we can see he's sort of descending into this little bit of chaos and madness, when he's burying his friend with the brain all caught up that we met back when we first saw Walker. It was very cool, and I loved that all of it was done without a single bit of dialogue. It was all visual storytelling, really just depended upon the mood set with the camera and the actors' reactions within it. I thought it was brilliantly done. And then even at the end, where we see that he sees something, and his last bullet, which he's been weighing, should I kill myself, should I not? That sort of seems to be the debate that he was having. Of course, he ends up using to summon his bit of revenge, you might say, in the guise of an army of walkers, which again, we do not see up until about halfway through the episode. So I thought that was brilliantly done, just with the visuals, just with the ears and the reactions, really told that entire story perfectly and beautifully. I thought it was a great way to sort of set up the rest of the episode. Now, back at the ranch, we actually run into a really interesting problem, which I was really excited for them to talk about, which is the whole idea of the cattle and the cattle's drawing in the walkers and way having to slaughter the cattle in order to keep the walkers from being drawn in. I mean, they're also dealing with a water situation. You would think with the water you might wait a few more days before you lay waste to your entire herd of cattle for the most part. But it does really bring up an interesting problem there. And that's the idea of that if the cattle are drawing the walkers in, then that is a loss of resources. You're going to have ranches, you're going to have herds all across the country being, wiped out by walkers, and by extension, a lot of the other animals, a lot of the prey animals that are out there as well are all going to be lost. So seeing that not only do we have the undead and we have the loss of civilization and the idea, but also the taxing of resources because they are being consumed by the walkers out there really kind of puts an interesting perspective on things and certainly makes things a lot more dire looking out into the future. And it is interesting there where we have Jake, who, with a talk with Ofilia, certainly is feeling about taking off. Lost the dad, lost the ranch, it's all over the nation now. He has nothing left to fight for. And the minute you don't have anything left to fight for, The Walking Dead will pretty much get rid of you. So there were sort of some indications that Jake was not necessarily long for the world as it is. And again, interesting idea when they're talking about having to slaughter the cattle because of the walkers, that Jake was talking to Alicia about, yeah, there's a place up north by the border where we could do some hunting. And it's like, maybe that hunting isn't going to be as effective. But we do have throughout this Jake and Alicia's discussions, Jake's idea of leaving the ranch, like I said, is pretty much foreshadowing is the minute that you are giving up and willing to walk away, then you're pretty much going to be taken care of, which is what we do run into later on. But when we had Troy show up at the cabin in the middle of the night there and sort of wake up Nick, I love the feeling on that because Nick was so unsteady and his sort of concern and thinking about Troy so much. Really, they played it nicely. You weren't entirely sure if it was a dream or not for a little while of that discussion. I think all the way until sort of the end of it, where you realize this is an actual reality thing. I mean, that's how I felt. I thought that it was played nicely on that. But how we have Troy giving that idea of the horde. And I don't think that we've seen a horde proper or herd. We, of course, have the terminology difference, from all the different groups. But we haven't really seen anything like that, I think, here on Fear the Walking Dead. And I loved how Troy presented it as this beast that came from the east across the desert where nothing was able to stop it from growing. You could imagine this army of walkers slowly gathering more as they stretch over this giant open flat land. Really gave the visuals nicely, gave that wonderful sense of dread, which is something that we really needed. Lately, the walkers have seemed a lot of like just background kind of like problems that you see. It's like, oh, here's a couple walkers, and we go on with our day. Or here's an explosion and fiery walkers come in, and then we just go and take care of them and move on. They seem sort of like background. And this is bringing them back forward as an actual, literal existential threat. And I just loved how they have sort of built that whole concept. And then when we have Jake and Nick going back out with Troy, it was a standard thing. You got to have the face down with the brothers and their different points of opinion. Troy really, as much as I disliked Troy in the beginning, I do enjoy him as a character now. He feels very much like Nick, in those comparisons, like a survivor. And Jake, not so much so. The minute that things have gone off, haven't gone the way that he wanted, his willingness to sort of give up leaves him in the past. Whereas Troy, in some ways, reminds me a lot of Shane. Just in the idea of like his philosophy might ultimately be the right one that you need to survive in the world, but now may not really be the time to apply that philosophy. Especially if you're lacking sleep and you're wanting revenge and you run into a giant horde. So anyway, I love the setup. I love the idea with the horde, I'll call them both back and forth. How they in a way sort of save some money on the visuals. I mean, when we first saw them, all the shots, lots of dust hiding everything. I was a little disappointed by it, but I kind of went in with the idea when you can get kind of those, the wind blows and there's a little opening and then you see the army. It's a way of having a giant group without it necessarily being so expensive. And even the idea when they lined up the trucks, and so you just had, as the herd came down and was hitting the trucks and moving them and bouncing back and forth, you got that great visual of the effect of that group without having to see them all. So you just get those small little glimpses and glances at it. And I think that really worked out really well from a storytelling standpoint. I also love the fact that they did some smart moves, but not everything. Yes, they lined up the trucks as a way to sort of redirect. Now, Troy talks about leading the herd, that he had the idea that you need noises, that they stop. we sort of start to get that idea, which is something that back at the ranch they don't know about. They haven't encountered all of these. Again, we're only 2 months into the apocalypse or so. So the idea that they can think of defensive to redirect and not fight, but not think of the next step is then you've got to have someone over there to fire or make noise to draw the herd back in that direction, which is what waylaid into their final giant problem, because when you have that many bodies pushing, it's going to push anything over, as we have seen in previous episodes of Walking Dead. So I just thought overall, I loved how they presented the herd. They made it scary. They made this a serious threat, and that everything else that the rest of the group is going through, all of their interpersonal problems, get immediately put aside. It's like, great, we got to arm everyone up and we've got to be ready. So smart decision making on the group. I loved how they didn't let their small stuff kind of get in the way, and they're really dealing with the serious threat, which is of course thousands and thousands of walkers. All right, a few small things. One, Nick is stepping into a leadership role. Interesting little background action happening in the discussion between Ofilia and Crazy Dog, that Nick is someone that they can follow, that everybody likes Nick, and Nick doesn't want to be a leader, and thus might be the best one. It plays onto a lot of Plato and ideas of philosophy of leading, and sometimes the best leaders aren't the ones that want to lead, because if you want to lead, then you want the power and you want that position, and therefore your motivations could be suspect. So I like the idea how they're starting to look at Nick, and even when we get towards the end of the episode, when we're dealing with with Troy wanting to check out and Nick telling him, we have to stop what you started. You can sleep when you're dead. It was a perfect line ending for the episode, and also real calling up for Nick stepping forward and dealing and facing with the problems of the world and being a leader. Hey, we had more walkie-talkie issues here. We start the episode where we have Alicia talking about that mom can't get a hold of her on the walkie-talkie. Then she tries to hand Jake one, and Jake says, no, walkies are useless. Then why do we have the walkie here, and why was it working with Maddie? And yet, as they get over to and find the herd, the walkie-talkie's working just fine. So I don't know what's up with the walkies. Probably the same thing that's going on with the scouts. Worst scouts ever. The whole horde gets within like a half a mile before they even notice it, and it's just from the dust cloud. I mean, Ofilia makes that comment to Alicia about Jake and Nick going out by themselves. We always go out we always scout in groups. That's how we survive. Always? Since when? I haven't seen any of that. Seriously, these guys have the worst security ever. Jake's cruel comment to Alicia about, was that the idea to seduce me while Maddie works Jake's dad, works Jeremiah. Yes, that was cruel and that was harsh, but also true. Exactly what Maddie was telling Alicia. That Maddie was going to work on Otto and that Alicia should get close to Jake. So, well, discounting Alicia's true feelings, which are there, not that far off the mark. Okay, some of the stuff with Nick, Troy, and Jake annoyed me. Mostly, I mean, we start out with the whole kind of stand down where we have Nick talking to Troy, and then we have Jake next to him pointing a gun at Troy, which is also pointing right at Nick at the other side. Just horrible lineup. And the idea of hitting Jake and just knocking him so hard that he flies off, rolls down the cliff, and then right up to the walkers. It was like, that was not surprising, but also, do you have to hit him that hard? I mean, really, was it? Anyway, that scene kind of annoyed me. Just in the idea. Also, if you drop down to that edge of walkers, you would have gotten a lot more. It was like, again, this is wiping out Jake, and still getting to have that moment where Troy has to take him out versus Jake taking Troy out. Otherwise, we should have just lost Troy. If that was the case, Troy should have rolled down into the herd. We should have just lost him right there, and then Troy would have had to deal with Jake's loss. I say the right people. On the way back while Nick is going, we have to stop and find out. So it stretched out the scene. I did like that Nick referred to Troy about how long is it going to take for him to change, referring back to Troy's sort of experiments back at the beginning of the season. So I did like that moment, but the other stuff with seeing Jake gone was, I don't know, kind of overly done, I think. Oh, and the secret compartment behind the picture that says, God helps those that help themselves. That was awesome. Come on, you know that was cool. The fact that it was a grenade launcher, maybe over the top, but effective. Alright, I know I keep saying that it's early in the apocalypse, but these are not neophyte fighters. Alicia should know at this point that you have to strike in the head and not to be attacking in the body. Why was she slicing and stabbing and hitting him with the rifle butt in that whole Walker scene in the stomach, in the body? It's only like every fourth one went to the head. That was a little annoying. And I know they wanted to have that cool fight to get through and the group kind of banding together to get down to the pantry. But some of the walkers being everywhere and getting in front of them before, I mean, their defensive line seems to have fallen apart. I hate it when that happens. They've done that a few times. It's like as soon as one line opens up, the walkers are everywhere. I would have thought they would have gotten overrun with that many. I like they fought through, but the stabbing in the stomach kind of annoyed me. However, now having them all trapped in the pantry underground, and all those personalities conflicting in those tight claustrophobics, that's going to be interesting. There's going to be some interesting storytelling going on starting next week. Alright, so I think that'll just wrap things up for this week. No reason to go into more specifics. Good episode, liked more. There were a few issues, but I like the storytelling. I like the visceral fear that we have going on. Less of the mamby-pamby, I don't like you, you don't like me stuff. Really some good visceral stuff. Love the storytelling in this episode. Please, let's have more about it. We'll get that viewership ticked up. So, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, throw those down in the section below. Now, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. And if you are not a subscriber, it's quick, it's easy. You won't miss these reviews for the rest of the season, plus all the other cool stuff we have coming up this fall. Do it by clicking my face right here. And I will throw up a video that we did over with Mark at Enchantment of Eternity talking about Defenders. You can check that out right there. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I am D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.